launch conductor in mission control. We pause at this moment in our countdown to remember and honor the lives of each of the participants on the Celestis Memorial Spaceflight. Their presence on this flight signifies a commitment to the opening of the space frontier shared by all of us. We wish the friends and families present today and all those who are with us in spirit all over the world Godspeed, good luck, and our thanks for allowing us to share this very personal time with you today. Elsie out. 5 vehicles armed. 3, 2, 1, fire. Missile away.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and my name is Marc, and of course I am the Celestis ambassador for this wonderful company called Celestis. We have a lot to talk about. Those that are watching us, I have a few comments I need to make before we go ahead and start the show. If you have any questions about the upcoming launches that we talk about each and every week, as well as our special guest that we're having tonight, make sure you go ahead and copy that into the comments page, the comments section, and we'll go ahead and put those to our guests. We also have our Celestis family, our Celestis personnel who will be answering any questions that you may have that I can't get to, that I can't answer, or Charles may know more than any of us of what they might be. So before this, we took the summer off. We had a lot to do. We're busy with upcoming launches, and we wanted to make sure we had all the appropriate information ready to pass on to you for this discussion. Once again, if there's any questions that you have while we're doing this discussion, please go ahead and put those in our comment section. We are also on YouTube, and also remember that if you have other family members or if you want to view our broadcast at a later date, we are on YouTube. We'll post that up on YouTube for you to revisit our conversation. Celestis is a fantastic company, and it's due to this incredible guy that I'm about to bring up right now. We have the Ascension launch that we just had was absolutely phenomenal. And for those that were there, we hope that you were listening tonight. And for those that have no idea what I'm talking about, what our launches are like, well, just listen through. I'd like to bring up right now our CEO, our guru himself, Mr. Charles Chafer. Charles, how are you today?
I'm well, Marc. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, buddy. A lot coming up. We have so many launches that are upcoming, especially after the Ascension. We have one that's coming up in a couple months. Can you give us a little bit of a heads up as to what's going on and what to expect, sir?
I sure will, and thank you for that. Before I do that, I want to take just a moment to remember a fallen comrade, someone who you made me think of him when you said, and some of the Celestis family will be answering questions. Well, Richard was one of those question answer, and we lost Richard right after the Ascension flight. He bravely battled disease for many years longer than his doctor thought he could. But I would like to remember Richard Brastet. He was literally our first employee when we founded the company, straight out of graduate school at University of Houston, and was just a steady hand and a warm heart that we had with us for almost 30 years. But we did lose him. He'll be on 2 Celestis missions coming up, and I'll talk about the Voyager flight as well as the Earth orbit flight that he'll be on. But I wanted to start out and remember Richard this evening.
If I could add, I considered Richard one of my mentors as well. Amongst you and Lygia and Christiana, those are the people that I was introduced to. I started out with. Richard was a fantastic individual. I learned more about Richard doing the services than I had ever known. The man spent more time abroad, um, bringing up, young astronomers, old astronomers, colleagues, people that he got to know, the Russians, the Poles, I guess, and I had no idea that Richard was indeed that intellectual, powerful man that he was. He very utterly intelligent. I remember when we had one of our launches. I don't know if it was Star Seeker or Legacy. I can't remember, but we were in New Mexico, and Richard brought along his telescope. I mean, he loved astronomy. He loved space. He loved, the sky, and he brought out his um, his telescope. And one of the most fantastic places to see the heavens was in New Mexico. And we were out at night, and he brought out that telescope, and he just pointed out all of the individual celestial bodies. I learned words and names that I never heard of before, constellations I know. And Richard had the patience of just showing everyone. He invited the guests, the people that were there during that launch, to come out at night, literally sit under the stars and look at how magnificent this area that neither you and I have visited, but of course our passengers and our participants with Celestis eventually get to go to. And Richard was just, I can't thank him any more than I am right now for what he has shown me and how much of a friend Richard was too. And I was happy to show up at the, I caught a flight. I found the flight and I flew to Houston because I said I got to be there, and this is what friends do. And I was happy to attend his memorial service.
Well, it was
So
great
thank
to
you,
have you with us.
thank you, sir.
And one of the things I know he would want us to do would be to carry on with all of the work that we're doing. So that's a segue into the update on our coming missions. We have 4 missions scheduled between now and the middle of February of next year. So really, 4 missions in what, about 8 months. So we're going to be busy. The And that's the kind of cadence that um, we welcome. Let me put it that way. It creates a
Yeah,
lot more opportunities for people to fly regularly. Um, First mission up is Aurora, which is what we call an Earthrise mission, which we fly from Spaceport America, about 265 miles down the road from where I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The launch is near Las Cruces, New Mexico, and it's our suborbital mission where we fly flight capsules of our participants into space where they experience a few minutes of microgravity, and then we bring them back to Earth via parachute, dispatch a helicopter out to the White Sands Missile Range landing zone, and pick the contents back up and deliver flown keepsake flight capsules back to the families and friends of the loved one who has flown. It's a really cool mission. It's so different from the missions that we fly out of Florida and even California. It's a what's called a sounding rocket, and that's a term of art for a machine that from fire to Mach 6 is 2 seconds. So if you're used to seeing launches from the Cape where the rockets kind of leap off the pad but then rumble powerfully skyward, it'd be like the Roadrunner and the Coyote if you lined one of our sounding rockets up next to them, and the Roadrunner would be far and far in the distance. So it goes up over 100 nautical miles, which is everyone's definition of space. And what makes it cool is it's among the more intimate, if there is such a thing as an intimate launch, it's among the more intimate launches that we provide people. We're allowed to bring our guests who come to Las Cruces for 3 days of events. We're allowed to take them right up onto the launch pad, right next to the rocket, which you can do when it's a solid fuel rocket, not a liquid fuel rocket. and get a personal briefing by the founder of the company that flies the rocket, Up Aerospace, about the mission. Now, the missions are always operated, at least the ones we fly on, and under the NASA Flight Opportunities Program, which means there's a whole bunch of NASA experiments, tests, uh, microgravity work that are on the rocket, and we're flying as a secondary payload right up in the tip of the nose. Actually, that little teeny, can't do it, that little teeny, almost looks like a pencil over my shoulder, is a replica of the Up rocket, Spaceloft XL. Um, it's an amazing. Those launches occur at dawn. I guess, we'll have around 300 people visiting with us, friends and family from around the world, including Japan and Europe, who all gather. In this case, the launch is scheduled for November 30th. We'll all meet in Las Cruces at our headquarters hotel, which is the Spring Hills Suites, on the 28th, and everybody gets registered. Then the next morning, which is the 29th, we get up and we go out and do the tour of the launch operation, the mission control, the launch pad, the rocket, et cetera. Everybody gets to go up and see that. It's about an hour commute up to Upham, New Mexico, which is in the middle of the Journey of Death desert. Um, but there, the state of New Mexico has invested so far, I guess, around $250 million in the first ever purpose-built commercial spaceport. It's a very cool thing to see. You can't get there with a private car. You have to come with us. But you get to see the launch, which goes usually at sunrise and on day 3. Back to day 2 after the tour, we then have in the afternoon a memorial service, and in this instance, and a reception that'll be held at the Las Cruces Convention Center. And in this case, we always invite an astronaut guest to come and speak to our families, kind of the here's what it was like when I went discussion. And this, for Aurora, we have Richard Mullane, 2-time space shuttle astronaut and author of a new book, Riding Rockets. And he'll be there to give his perspective and to meet and undoubtedly sign books at the memorial service and reception. A word about the memorial service: it's a time when the families who've journeyed out to the launch, are given an opportunity to address the other families and tell a few minutes about their loved one and why this mission is meaningful to them. So that's 3 sort of jam-packed days in late November, end of November, November 28th through 30th. It'd be nice to get back there. It's been longer than we usually have between Earthrise missions because the state of New Mexico shut down the spaceport for more than a year during COVID, and so it'll be our first time back there since pre-COVID. As I mentioned, I think we'll have around 300 guests, and it's just a really cool experience. And New Mexico is a great place to visit as well. I liked it so much I moved here. And starting tomorrow or the next day, if we don't get it all launched correctly tomorrow, but I think we will, you'll be able to go to enterprise-flight.com and purchase your tickets. As I said, you have to ride our transportation, and learn the agenda, see what hotels are in Las Cruces. So all the things that you need to do, you'll be able to find at that website tomorrow. And for those of you who are watching who have someone on board, you'll be receiving an email from us tomorrow directing you how to go to the site and learn more about the launch. So time moves fast. It's really only about 60 days before we're going to be doing what will be our 19th memorial space flight. Okay, so that's Earthrise, Aurora, November 30th. Next up in the queue will be what undoubtedly will be our biggest mission in 28 years of doing missions. It will actually be our 20th and 21st mission, because we'll be flying our Tranquility Luna flight, our second visit to the moon, as well as our Enterprise Voyager flight, first ever Voyager mission. And it will go 300 million kilometers out into deep space, but they'll both be on the same rocket, which will be, I think, appropriately named the Vulcan rocket. It will be the first launch of the Vulcan by ULA, United Launch Alliance, joint venture of Lockheed and Boeing. And there's a huge amount of information to tell you. The one thing you want to know is, when is it going to fly? And we don't know. We know approximately. So right now, ULA is showing later this year, and I think emphasis on later. I think I've seen some discussion about we're going to fly by December. It's going to be in that time zone. And as soon as we know, as soon as the launch date is set, of course, we'll communicate to everyone, along with the details of our 3 days of launch events surrounding Tranquility and Enterprise in Cape Canaveral, Florida. I'm guessing that we'll have between 1,500 and 2,000 guests, which is by far the biggest launch event that we've ever hosted. And the energy is building to that. About 2 weeks ago, we announced that we were selected by Nichelle Nichols' family to honor her aboard Enterprise, where she joins James Doohan and Gene and Majel Barrett Roddenberry from the original cast. And then a week ago, we announced that we'll be flying the DNA of DeForest Kelley, Bones, the ship surgeon from the original cast, on that mission, along with probably 200 people from around the world, from everyday folks to world famous Himalayan mountain climbers, Apollo astronaut Phil Chapman, special effects, I don't know how to say, the best special effects person ever, Doug Trumbull, is also on the mission. And that will be one amazing period of time where we're trying to do 2 missions on a single flight. So the trajectory takes our Tranquility flight, which is aboard the Astrobotic Peregrine lander, commercial lunar lander. We fly to the moon, where Vulcan Centaur drops the Peregrine into orbit, from where it lands. Then the Centaur 5 stage, refires and propels our Enterprise flight approximately 300 million kilometers into deep space, which takes you, depending on which way you're going, past Mars or past Venus, and establishes a forever heliocentric orbit. And I say depends on which way it's going, because the quarter of the moon when we launch dictates the final trajectory of the Voyager service, because we have to intersect the moon. So it'll be very interesting to kind of follow that, and we'll try to figure out some sort of a contest for people to figure out whether it's going past Mars or past Venus. But it's just not every day that you have private missions going to deep space. And so we're very proud of both of those missions and looking forward to those. And then we come back to the Cape shortly thereafter, currently scheduled for February 15th, 2023, our Excelsior orbital launch, which will fly on a Spaceflight Industries Sherpa space tug on board a Falcon 9 rocket going to Earth orbit. And we'll have 200 to 300 guests in Cape Canaveral. And that'll be our 21st mission. We're waiting to announce the next round of missions. We have them lined up, but we're working hard to get these off, and very excited about that schedule. Again, in the past, we would average a flight every year and a half. We're going to be averaging 2 to 4 flights a year going forward. So it creates a lot of opportunity for people to join us, and a lot of opportunity for us to provide mission services. Okay, Marc, that's kind of the update.
Let me get back in here. While you were giving us all of this news, it seems that Facebook had a little problem here that they sent me. Actually, StreamYard, who is our service here, confirmed that Facebook somehow screwed something up. But Christina and I have been scrambling to put the link out, so people that are posting now, and obviously move to those links on Facebook and whatever. We have been broadcasting there. If there's anything that you missed, there will be a rebroadcast on YouTube. So we'll make sure that we post that link onto our Facebook page and all our pages, so you can hear everything else that Charles had mentioned if you had not heard already. Okay, that's pretty cool, Charles. I mean, we have a pretty busy slate, and I know that right now our primary attention is on the Aurora flight that's happening, as you know, end of November. What we normally tell people to do, and I know we're going to have, what do you think, 1 or 2 more broadcasts before we leave?
Since September, probably we'll do one in the third Monday of October, and then the third Monday of November, which will be right before the Aurora flight.
Okay, so let me ask you, normally, and everyone is watching, please listen very carefully to what I'm about to ask Charles, okay? Don't do anything until Charles tells you to. Charles, have you given okay for any Aurora guests or any Aurora family members to purchase their air tickets?
It's, again, once we start selling our event tickets, that's the sign that we're confident enough in the launch date to recommend people buy their air tickets.
Okay, so folks, please don't do anything now.
Well, they can, because I announced it tonight that it's going to be up tomorrow. So,
there you go.
So yes, it's fine. And the other thing is, these launches, knock on wood, are not as likely to get delayed for any reason. So
right.
we're pretty confident that there will at least be a launch event on the 30th of November. Now, having said that, somebody can drop a key experiment somewhere. There are always reasons. So don't buy non-refundable tickets.
Correct. That's what I was going to say next.
but go ahead, and also tomorrow you'll see that we have a block of rooms reserved at the Spring Hill Suites Marriott, which is where the headquarters will be for the mission, as well as it's not a big town, but there are a lot of, because it's a college town, New Mexico State is there. There are a lot of good hotels there, so there should be no issues with getting rooms. But having said that, it's the fall, it's right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It makes sense to go ahead and make non-refundable hotel reservations as well.
Right.
Not
No,
to make,
well,
make no to make
to make
to make
refundable.
refundable. Sorry.
Got it. Yeah. So, folks, if you are unsure, watch this broadcast again. But more importantly, please contact our offices. Okay. Make sure that you know that you understand everything that we're telling you, so that you don't make a mistake. Make sure you purchase, like we said, refundable air tickets. Okay, tickets that you can get back, that you get your money back on. We do not. We know you, we're pretty sure that this launch is going to happen. Okay, so once the event tickets start to roll, then you know that's a go for us. Oh, great, our people are on. Good to hear. So our people made it onto our Facebook page. Well, actually, that's coming from our YouTube page. But that's great. Someone has a question for you, Charles, on the Enterprise flight. Let's see what that is. Do we have a launch date for the Enterprise flight into deep space?
No, short answer. We only we're constrained by our agreements with the people that provide the flights to only use the launch dates that they use, which makes a lot of sense, actually.
Right. Yeah.
The ULA is currently forecasting later in 2022 with no counsel one way or the other. And that's the official best estimate that I can give you. However, as people are noting, it is getting later in 2022. So, and if you follow the space press at all, you know that ULA is developing Vulcan for the first time. And therefore it's a first impression development of the mission. And what do I think is the question. I think that they may hit December, but they may hit January too.
Mhm.
And we'll know as soon as they set a launch date, which means they're approved on the range to fly on that date. They will let us know, and we will give everybody heads up. I imagine it will be at least a month's advance notice, and it may be more than a month's advance notice. But I can also say that, just given all the things that happen, if we start getting into any time past mid-December, it's likely to be mid-January because everybody does the holidays, and that's not official ULA policy or anything like that, but that's just the way the world tends to work. So right now, if I'm guessing, and that's what it is not an official statement. The official statement is later this year. I'm guessing later this year means December, and that it may well get to the point where they say, let's take a break and come back after the first year. I know they've got very tight windows on the rest of their schedule. They want to fly 2 commercial flights. We're the first. The Dream Chaser reusable vehicle is the second. And then they have 60% of all the Space Force launches for the next several years on their manifest. So they're working hard to get it done, but get it right also. Everyone that's watched me here before know I always quote Deke Slayton, who I worked for a decade, saying there are no awards for on-time failures.
Right.
So that's what I can tell you.
Yeah, I agree with you, Charles. We got to get it right. I don't know. I don't care how long it takes. It has to get right. I went to see Artemis take off on his first day.
Yeah.
Of course, we know what happened on the first day. And I'm not sure I'll be able to see Artemis at all, mainly because of my work schedule and that thing of nature. But a typical 45-minute ride from my house to the Cape, it took me 3 hours to get home. Okay, everybody, we're sad and headed back to the car, and it took me 3 hours to get home. everyone was excited to see Artemis go off. Very, very important. But they knew, even then, minutes before it was to take off, that something's not working right. They have to get it right. There's
Right.
too much riding on this, so they have to get it right. And the same thing with Enterprise.
Yeah. But I have ULA is a magnificent company. They have something like a record of 70 launches in a row without a failure. So we're betting a lot. We're betting two of our most important missions on that Vulcan rocket. So
Yeah.
I want to know when it's going to go, but I'm also real happy that they're doing their due diligence to make the rocket work.
Right. Hey, boss, I have to ask you a favor.
Sure.
Before we get to our next question, I think we can answer it if we show our company video on the Enterprise. Is that good timing for that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Sure.
Okay. Stand by, David. Here's an answer for you, and we're going to do it in grand style, as Celestis always have. So check this out if you've never seen it.
In 2022, people from planet Earth will launch a spaceship bound to create a distant outpost of human civilization. A new island in deep space beyond Mars. Aboard the Enterprise flight will be biofiles, a complete genomic representation, DNA of crew members from around the world. Mind files, greetings and vital data from Earth's peoples. And memorial journeys, the precious remains of Star Trek's first family and others from all walks of life. Join the crew of the Enterprise flight yourself, or honor a life well lived with a memorial journey. Reservations are limited and may be secured through Celestis, the iconic global pioneer of memorial spaceflight.
And David had asked, how does the rocket continue on? How does it? Well, let's read it. Go ahead.
He actually wanted to know, how does the solid fuel rocket do it? And we use a solid fuel rocket for Earthrise. For Voyager, that stage you saw firing right after it left the payload for the moon is a liquid fuel reignitable upper stage called Centaur 5. So they just relight the Centaur motor that had taken them to the moon is the short answer.
Yeah, awesome. Before we go to our guest, our special guest for tonight, I think this question is worthy of asking. And when we do our memorial services, it is one thing that we do, and that is ask if there's any family member, preferably one if there's a whole group, who want to say something about their loved one who's traveling with our missions. Would you concur on that, Charles?
Yeah, we have, I mean, that's really one of the most compelling parts of the 3-day events that we put on, is we give everyone an opportunity, such as definitely Jenny, you'll be offered that, to come up and say a few words. It's a few words, usually about 3 minutes, but you can tell a little bit about your mom and how she got to be here and what this means to you and your family. And those services are always streamed, so anybody anywhere can log on and be part of that memorial service. So if you've got family members that couldn't come to the launch, but who want to see all the launch itself is streamed, who want to see the memorial service, that'll be live streamed as well.
Okay, I don't see any more questions, but I want everyone to bear in mind that there's always questions. We're always around to answer every question that you may have about what it is we do, about your travels to us, whether it be in New Mexico or whether it be here in Florida at the Cape. Please understand that we're a 24/7 organization. You may not get an answer in 24/7, but you can message us at any time at celestis.com. Go to our website ask any question you may have. You can also pick up the telephone. You get the number there at our website as well. I haven't set it up here on screen yet. And there's always questions. Don't think you are okay with every answer that you've gotten. Ask again, ask in a different way, but please make sure you ask us to make sure that you are comfortable with traveling to us to send off your loved ones. This is what we do. We're a public relations corporation. So if anyone has any questions right now, you can go ahead and put them in. But right now, I think we're going to go ahead and introduce our special guest, since we are segueing from the Enterprise flight right back into a passenger, someone who knows the passengers coming on the Enterprise flight. Charles, you want to do the honors on Linda?
No, go ahead, Marc. You've known her for 20 years, so you get the honor of this.
Linda, and I always mess up her last name anyway, so she's going to forgive me because I've always called her Linda. I never had to use your last name unless I was asking you to write out a check for me or something. But Zaruches, Linda Zaruches, what I said, Linda, has been a very, very close friend of Nichelle Nichols, Star Trek Aurora, as you know, for many years. I've known Linda for, we think personally, between the two of us, it's been over 20 at least, but she has some interesting information to share with us. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her up. So without any further ado, hello, Linda.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Hey, what are you wearing?
I am wearing my Star Trek hoodie.
I love it. I love it. That's really cool. So, Linda, if anyone has any questions for Linda, any questions about Nichelle Nichols, anything that you think Linda might be able to answer for you, go right ahead. All our platforms seem to be operating now, Facebook and YouTube. So you can ask on each one of those platforms. Linda, can you introduce us to your relationship with Nichelle, how you got to meet her, how long you've known her, and how far in the immediate past, you can give us any information about that.
Yeah, so I met Nichelle. For any of you who are familiar with fan films, I got involved with a gentleman who did fan films back in the early 2000s before they were really a thing. He was one of the first ones to do it. And so if you go to YouTube, there's two. One is a Roddenberry on Patrol, and the other one is Star Trek of Gods and Men. Roddenberry on Patrol is a very short, like 17 to 18 minute parody. If you're a Star Trek fan, I highly recommend you watch it. We have several Star Trek actors that are in it, including Nichelle. She's got a really funny part in it. And then that's when I first met her. And then in Star Trek of Gods and Men, it's the first full-length 90-minute fan film that was ever made. And I was the associate producer on that. And one of my roles was to take care of Nichelle. So we filmed it in upstate New York, and me and her spent a lot of quality time together. After that film was completed, we tried to stream it. It was not easy to stream things in like 2006 and 2007. We tried. It didn't work very well. And we joked that, well, in 10, 15 years, there'll be something out there and everyone will be able to see it. So yes, you can watch it on YouTube now. I think we've got like 4 million views or something like that of Star Trek of Gods and Men. But because we really couldn't stream back then, a lot of conventions asked Nichelle to come out and bring the movie. So we would do that, and I'd go with her as her assistant and her handler for the weekend. So just over the years, I've gotten, just to know her and her family and just, spending time with her. And then in 2019, when we announced her farewell tour, that she was retiring, I attended several conventions with her and her son during that farewell tour. We were going to do her farewell convention in May of 2020. And as you all know, what happened in early 2020, and it was canceled. We finally, thankfully, were able to host her farewell show as part of LA Comic-Con. They were very generous and gracious and gave us our own space for her event. We had several actors that were there. On a lot of panels and really cool things. It was a mini convention within a convention. And we're very glad we did. The fans got to say goodbye to her. She had a wonderful time. And it was really nice, especially with her passing recently, that we were able to give her the farewell send off and the party that she deserved. And so many fans, are probably, a couple thousand people that were there who got to say goodbye to her.
Well, it's
So,
great. And I see
yeah.
a photo with you and Nichelle here in the center.
Yep, that's us in Vegas.
Okay. What can you tell us about the photo on the left?
That one, I believe, the one on the left is the one, for anyone who doesn't know, Nichelle was actually hired by NASA. She was actually an ambassador, and her role was to recruit women and people of color into the astronaut program. So she did several events with them with her spacesuit on, and that is one of them.
Excellent, excellent. You said this was 2002 when you met? No, that's when.
No, yeah, it was well, we did Roddenberry on Patrol in 2003.
Okay, and it was Gods Within. Was there a sequel to Of Gods and Men?
No, there wasn't.
Okay.
And that was made in 2006 for the 40th anniversary of Star Trek.
Okay, and what can you tell us about this photo here?
Yeah, so George and Nichelle really loved each other. And every time they went to conventions together, they always made sure that they got to see each other and hang out. So this was taken at Phoenix Fan Fusion in 2019 as part of her farewell tour. And that's her son, Kyle. And then, of course, everyone knows George. And they made sure one of the days we coordinated with the show promoter that their lunches would coincide at the same time so they could hang out in the green room together. So I took that picture with my camera, but I just love the relationship between the two of them, and they love spending time together.
And of course, you had another special relationship with this young man here.
Yes,
as well.
Yes. So this picture is really pretty special. That's the last time, that was in Vegas in 2019. That's the last time Walt and Nichelle got to see each other, and that's the last photo of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so Walt was supposed to be part of Nichelle's show that we did in December. Unfortunately, he was in the hospital and was not able to attend. So he was very sad about that, and so was Nichelle. So this was actually the last time they saw each other.
Okay, and what have you created? And Charles, if you have any questions, just please chime right on in. What have you created in honor of Nichelle? Is there something that the general public caught wind of or does not know about at all?
Yeah, we sort of did a little soft launch. So Nichelle, one of the things that Nichelle did, everyone knows she was an actress, but the one thing that she really did was inspire the next generation. When I would do shows with her, I cannot begin to tell you how many people who were engineers or doctors or, in technology who said to Nichelle, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. She truly inspired an entire generation of individuals of all ages for over 50 years. And so even before her death, she had talked to her family about she wanted her legacy of inspiring young people, especially women and women of color, to continue in, the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math. And so upon her death, her family is launching the Nichelle Nichols Foundation. And we're really excited about it. We're going to raise funds from memberships, corporate sponsors, and events that we're going to host. The purpose of it is we are in the process right now of meeting with different organizations and groups that already have established and successful programs that do what we want to do, which is to ensure that more women and people of color can go into the STEM fields. And so our goal is to raise the money and not to create our own programs, but to partner with organizations to give them grants. And we will either give them grants to expand existing programs or to create new programs that they want to create to be able to help a wider base of individuals. Because Star Trek is international, we are looking at one organization that is also international while they're based in the U.S. The work that they do right now encompasses, I think, over 80 countries. Because we want to make sure that we are also recognizing our international Star Trek fan base. And some of the organizations are more grade school that we're looking at. Some are more high school, some are more college. But we want to make sure that it's really a broad band of individuals that we can potentially help get into STEM fields through the foundation. So we're excited excited about it. We haven't officially announced it. However, we have gotten an overwhelming response already, just through word of mouth. So we're excited. We're going to do a soft launch next month, full launch on her 90th birthday, December 28th. You can go to right now we just have a one-page website. It's nichellenichols.foundation. You can sign up for our newsletter, and our email is there. So feel free to go ahead and reach out to us if you have any questions. But we are really excited. We have a lot of scientists and people in the business industry and other people who I can't quite share yet, who want to be part of the foundation. And so one of the things we're going to do for our members is host like a speaker series, one that's geared towards young people to get them excited about careers, either as, a computer science or networking or a mechanical engineer or a doctor. So part of it is going to be inspiration. We're going to have contests, like art contests and video contests for kids and high school age children that we're working on. And then we'll also have, for members only, special events that will be live streamed, that you'll be able to maybe see some exclusive content and have some really cool conversations with some really fun people that are working for like NASA, JPL, things like that. So we've got a lot of things planned. Yeah, we've got a lot of things planned. Again, we've got some really interesting people that have come forward. It's amazing how many people are Star Trek fans and how many people have come forward and said, what can I do and how can I help? So we're really excited to be able to do this in her honor and in her name, continue her legacy of inspiring that next generation.
I think Charles has a question.
Well,
yes.
Two things. One is, Linda, we had a question. If you name again the two films that you had mentioned.
Yes. So one is called Roddenberry on Patrol. And for those of you who don't know, Gene Roddenberry was a police officer in LA before he started writing for Star Trek. So Roddenberry on Patrol was actually filmed in his old beat. And one of the actors in there who has a small role was one of the police officers he worked with. And that's like 17, 18 minutes. And then the second one is called Star Trek of Gods and Men. And that also has a wide number of Star Trek actors that are in it. And Tim Russ actually directed both. Tuvok.
Yes, I remembered hearing about that.
So
go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to say that as we've known Sky for a long time, and as we began to work with him and Kyle on how to announce Nichelle's presence on the Enterprise flight, we became aware of the foundation, and Celestis has made a multi-year financial commitment to the Nichelle Nichols Foundation. I think we were the first, but if not, we're one of the early ones in. And I wanted to let people know that there's an opportunity on the Enterprise flight to join Nichelle aboard the flight. We did this with James Doohan when he was announced on our first Legacy, and then subsequently Explorers, and now Enterprise flight. We said, if you'd like to send your name and a few words of a message to accompany then Jimmy, today Nichelle, just come to enterprise-flight.com and you can do that. And it's a no cost to you way to virtually send yourself to deep space. If you want to do a little more and help us fulfill our commitment to the Nichelle Foundation, you can join via what we call a mind file, which gives you an opportunity on essentially, think of a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Put anything you want. Of course, we look at it for content, but photos, musical scores, kindergarten class pictures, your remedy for solving all world problems. And we'll take that mind file, digitize it, put it onto a highly radiation resistant metal chip, and fly it aboard Enterprise with Nichelle and all the other people that are going. And it will be essentially a cosmic message in the bottle, or a message to the future, that will be a minimum of 300, or well, approximately 300 million kilometers in a heliocentric orbit, essentially its own planet. It's the ultimate message in the bottle / time capsule, and you can join the mission in that way. And we've already had, if you go to the site, you'll see some of the initial submissions, but turns out that wedding photos are pretty popular things to send.
Oh,
So
really?
if you've got a message that you want, to send to the future, or to send to whoever might encounter this unbelievable spacecraft in deep space, you can do that at the Mind Files site. And as I said, we're using that to help fund our multi-year commitment to the Nichelle Nichols Foundation.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's unbelievable. Go ahead, Linda. You froze up, Linda, if you can hear us.
Yeah, can you hear me?
You froze up a little bit there. Yeah,
now we can.
Yeah, now we can. Go ahead.
I'm there. Okay, I'm back. Okay, good. I just want to say, Charles, we really appreciate your support. Again, we knew there would be support when we announced it, but we really have been blown away by everyone that has literally said, what do you need and how can we help? So we really, really appreciate your commitment and everything that you've done so far for the foundation.
Well, thank you. And we've got a few thousand messages already in the queue to go. So she'll be accompanied by many of her fans into deep space.
Yeah, and she loves her fans. She really does.
And I should also mention, we talked about her participation with a portion of her cremated remains. She's also flying, as well as her son, Kyle, with a DNA sample, which is a completely different way of going to space. And what we do there is through taking a cheek swab. We have a DNA lab in Canada that processes that, attaches that DNA information to a substrate, and we fly it just like we fly the ashes. The difference is that when we fly ashes, because of the way of the chemistry, we can only fly a very small portion of someone's ashes. But for the DNA, we're sending the entire human genome. So in fact, the whole of Nichelle is going to deep space in the form of her DNA as well.
Wow, that's fantastic. 2 ways there. Let me ask you real quick about this one here.
Yes.
Who is that on the left?
So this photo was taken at her farewell show. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Mae Jemison is the first African-American female astronaut. And when they asked her who inspired her, because obviously, she didn't have any role models, and she goes, "Of course I did. I had her on Star Trek." So they ended up developing a very close friendship. And we were very grateful and blessed that Dr. Mae Jemison was able to come to the show. She was amazing. She did a panel. She did her closing ceremony. And this was a private moment that the two of them had together at the event.
Awesome. And the last photo that you sent me, if you could explain this away, it's a little heartfelt what I'm seeing here. So I'd like to get your take on it.
Yeah, so this photo was taken at her farewell party. And that is her nephew. As you can see, she's smiling and laughing. We couldn't get her to sit down. She normally is in a wheelchair, and she had so much energy. She was up there dancing with the fans, dancing with her nephew. She kept, grabbing the microphone and saying, "I love you all. Thank you for being here. I love my fans. I love Star Trek." So, excuse me, we thought she'd be there maybe for an hour, that she'd be tired because she signed all day. She stayed for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And she was dancing. Yeah, she stayed for 2.5 hours, and she was dancing and joking with the fans the entire 2.5 hours. And again, she kept grabbing the microphone. because she just wanted to just tell the fans how much she loved all of them. So it was a very special evening, and we were very happy. And anyone who was there that night will tell you it was really, really very special. There was one other photo.
All right.
I don't know if you have it or not. There was one other. I don't know if you have it.
I don't think you sent it to me, but
Okay.
What am I looking
That's
for?
fine.
Okay.
That's fine. There was another photo I sent you of a person that she was with at the party I took.
We did Walter and George.
You didn't get, okay. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So when talking about who's a Star Trek fan, someone that we met at the Phoenix show that Nichelle met because he was wearing Spock socks is Tom Kenny, who's the voice of SpongeBob.
Oh, I do remember that, you sending me that photo. So go ahead.
Yeah, and he loves Star Trek. Like he's one of the biggest fans I've ever met. So we kept in touch with him, and then he came to Nichelle's party, and they got to spend some time together. But he's, it's just like I said, you just never know who is a Star Trek fan.
That's
so it was funny
correct.
at the party. People were excited. They're like, oh, they had Mae Jemison there, they had Nichelle Nichols, and they had SpongeBob.
That's amazing. I don't see that. I'm sorry, I don't see the photo in my file. Yeah.
Okay. But like I said, you never know. And when we did the show and Marc was there, when we did the Star Trek show, the 40th anniversary in Seattle, our keynote speaker was the 40th anniversary. It was the 50th anniversary. It was the 40th anniversary of Star Trek. 40th, yeah. Our keynote speaker was Jeff Bezos from Amazon.
Yep, he brought all his little. I emceed that show. Yeah, and he brought all his little cutouts, communicator and phaser. When he was 5 years old, he said he cut those out of manila folders, and he brought them to the show. It was amazing. He kept them.
Yeah. So again, you never know. And then the other guest we had was the guy who invented the cell phone. So again, a lot of Star Trek fans out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're down. If anyone has any questions they want to throw in real quick, do it now. We only have about a few more minutes before we have to sign off. But in the meantime, don't forget that this is the foundation that is being set up by Linda and a group of people, and obviously there are some VIPs that she cannot disclose who as of yet. So that actually gives me a big reason to keep track of her and this foundation, just so I can see who else is a member here. Go ahead, Charles.
No, I'm enjoying the discussion. I think it's appropriate to the number of engineers. I run around with rocket folks all the time and satellite folks, and the number of engineers that say they've gotten into their work because of Scotty is approximately equal to the number of fans that I hear that say the reason that they're involved in their aspect of space is because Nichelle Nichols broke the barriers, and now women and people of color and just diverse folks in general have begun to wedge their way into what was a pretty stratified industry. Star Trek rules, I think most people are too young, to remember that when the space shuttle Enterprise was rolled out, it was called Enterprise instead of Constitution. Yeah. And the rollout was delayed because of a 100,000 letter
writing campaign
sent to Jerry Ford saying, you can't name this space shuttle anything except Enterprise. And again, just the power of the Star Trek market.
I see an interesting question here, so we can make this probably our last one, depending on the answer. And Charles, you want to take this one?
Is there notice that Jimmy Doohan has flown on prior Celestis mission. Actually, he's flown on three so far. Yeah. So that answers your question. There really isn't a limit other than the physical amount of crewmen.
Right. Yeah. I would say
we only fly a gram out of several pounds, so there's not really a limitation. We're dealing with one gentleman who has in the process of purchasing his 14th flight to honor his family.
Yeah.
So that's the current record.
Yeah. That's it's interesting. Yes, you can keep sending yourself out there.
Right.
But before we sign off, not only is there the Enterprise, I think there's room on. No, Aurora is closed.
Aurora is closed. Enterprise is still open.
Right.
Tranquility is closed, but our next lunar mission after it is called Destiny, and it's open. Excelsior, which is our next orbital mission, is not yet closed, but will be fairly soon. But we already have another orbital mission, unnamed as yet, in the mix. So
Okay, cool.
the real challenge is keeping to think up names. So I want to invite anybody that's watching, if you got a great name for a mission that you think would fit who Celestis is, send it in, because we end up scratching our heads. I think they're all good. They're all good names. They become good names as the mission moves on. But we're open. Anybody
but look at it this way. I mean, if NASA can do it, we can do it. We can start pulling out some Greek and Roman gods if we run out of names.
Exactly.
We have probably a dozen or so that we can pull from that. Linda, it's been fantastic having you here. It'd be good to see you again, of course. You and I have fell out of touch, but that's sometimes how, friends and associates roll. They have their own lives to live with. I'm glad you moved your life into, this role of helping this foundation, starting this foundation, and what you've done with Nichelle. Ladies and gentlemen, Charles Chafer, who you're seeing here on the screen right now, is our guru. He's the guy that controls, who steers the ship. He's actually our Sulu, if not our Kirk. He's our Kirk and our Sulu, I guess you can say. But you still have the opportunity of being a part of any one of these upcoming flights that we have already announced, either in the form of DNA. We like to still see you, up and breathing right now, but you can pass this on to your family in terms of discussion of what you plan to do with the loved ones, or what the loved ones want you to plan to do. Go to our Celestis.com webpage. We are the tops in our industry. As far as I'm concerned, we're the only ones that exist. I mean, we've been chosen by celebrities and individuals all around that we do it right, we do it well, and we continue to do that, as you can see by our future missions that are coming up. So I suggest you visit our webpage as often as possible. Also, which we failed to mention, but we have numerous broadcasts that are going to be coming up, at least 2 before our next flight, but we'll continue on after that.
And we regularly post on various social platforms, and we also answer calls and emails. And I did want to say that we have a number of people who are flying before their final flight. They've sent their DNA in, and they're flying and going to enjoy all the launch activities while they're still here.
Right. And just for practice, especially for our Aurora family members, who is our next mission to handle, we do track our flights. NORAD tracks our flights, and we put them on our webpage. You can, in fact, check when you may actually see a loved one that's flying directly overhead, if it's not an Earthrise service or but you can go on our Facebook page and check, or rather our website, and check how we have tracked our previous flights. Go ahead, Charles.
Well, I was going to say, we have 5 orbital missions orbiting right now, and you can track any one of those 5 missions.
It's amazing.
That are orbiting. Some of them will orbit for several hundred years. Some of them for only, 15 or 20. But that's one of the cool things, as you said. And also for our lunar missions, it's just very cool to go out on a fully moonlit night and kind of, that's where Mom is.
Yeah. That's so incredible that we can do that. Linda, you have been wonderful. Remember, folks, Nichelle Nichols Foundation will be launching at some point. We will keep track. You can find information about Linda probably on our Celestis page, coming up soon. when she's got the ball rolling. In the meantime, we're going to talk to a lot of you folks again next month, and probably another mission update before we all head on out to New Mexico, where I'll be seeing you, and Charles will be there, and then on to Enterprise. So I guess that's it. Any final words, Charles?
No. Thank you, Linda. It was great.
Thank
to have
you. You too.
with us.
Yeah, it was great to have you there. It's fantastic what you're doing. I'm glad you were as close in the show as I hoped I could have been, but that's okay. I know you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Charles and Celestis.com, we thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we will see you. We will announce our next broadcast date for our next mission update. Thank you, guys. Live well. Peace, everyone. Bye-bye.
This is the launch conductor in Mission Control. We pause at this moment in our countdown to remember and honor the lives of each of the participants on the Celestis Memorial Space Flight. Their presence on this flight signifies a commitment to the opening of the space frontier shared by all of us. We wish the friends and families present today and all those who are with us in spirit all over the world Godspeed, good luck, and our thanks for allowing us to share this very personal time with you today. Elsie out. 5, vehicles armed, 3, 2, 1, fire.